What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast show. My name is Coulter. I'm your host, former team member selling auto insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, as well as life insurance products and, different supplemental health products and disability. And, in my tenure, I learned how to sell life and health at a high level. And, now we have a group, the Team Member Perspective, where we're teaching team members to do the same. And honestly, guys, I think about, this sales position a lot, right? And, this opportunity and how it really is just such an insane opportunity for anyone to come in and completely change their life financially. Like, that was a case for me, that when I learned skills and systems that allowed me to be compelling in my conversations, I started to close policies. I started to make more money, and my commission check started getting bigger. And, all of a sudden my life changed financially by learning how to do this in this opportunity. And so now, it's my hope to really give back and help team members have breakthroughs, help team members, be able to change their lives financially by selling insurance. And the beauty of this opportunity, guys, is that, everybody is required to have auto insurance to drive legally. And if you have a mortgage on a home, you're required to have homeowners insurance. And so because people are required to have auto and home insurance, it is just like we have this endless pipeline of prospects and customers and opportunities to sell life insurance, to sell disability insurance, supplemental health insurance, because it's like we're getting all of these customers, these auto and home customers, right? And so that is one thing that I know, financial advisors are like drooling about. Like, these P&C agencies don't really understand how badly I wish I could have the amount of people to talk to as they do. Or these different life insurance agents that are, having to create their own leads. They're just selling life insurance. Like, guys, these people, like, they're very envious of this opportunity for the sole fact that, we really get this unlimited pipeline of people to talk to sell life and health insurance too, because they're required to have auto and home insurance. And honestly, guys, I think about my time as a team member, being a team member for 6 years and, coming from a sales industry door to door where I wasn't given leads. I had to go knock doors to create my own leads. And it was 100% commission. Like, learning how to sell in that environment and in those circumstances and being successful in doing that, when I get into insurance, I start kind of operating and thinking in the same way as these financial advisors and these life insurance agents, in that, like, we really are so fortunate to have all of these auto and home customers that are calling us every day, all of these households that we're quoting for auto and home insurance that we get to quote and talk to every day, and just this book of business that we have of people that trust us. Like, how fortunate are we that we have this endless supply of leads to sell life insurance to? I mean, guys, like, it's insane. But, a lot of the times team members and even agents, we're not selling life insurance at the level that we want, not because we don't have the right strategy or method or process, but maybe because of the stories that we're telling ourselves. Maybe because of the beliefs that we're operating out of right now, or the certain thinking patterns that we have that are preventing us from actually selling more life and health insurance in this insane opportunity that we have. Okay, so my first message is this: be grateful that you have people to talk to. As a door-to-door salesperson, that's all I wanted, was someone to talk to. I just wanted people to answer the door, because of how many people would actually not answer the door or slam the door in my face. Like, I found it a privilege to be able to have someone that would actually listen to what I was saying. But think about this. Someone calling in to pay a bill, they're giving you their time and attention. They're calling you, right? They're going to listen to what you have to say. People that you're quoting, you get a lead and you call them and you get the lead on the phone. They're giving you their time and attention, right? And maybe it's not like the attention as to where you want it because they're just thinking about auto insurance, or they're just thinking about homeowners insurance, or getting their bill paid, or getting the quote on, their policies. Like, maybe it's not where you want it to be, but guys, like, with the few, transitions and a few skills of learning how to move this conversation over and frame the conversation to where life insurance and these different health insurance products, almost feel like an extension of their auto policy, an extension of their homeowner's policy, or almost feel like they complements the auto and the home insurance that they're calling us for, that they know us for, in such a beautiful way. Like we don't get there because of maybe the stories that we're telling ourselves, right? The beliefs that we're operating out of prevent us from actually getting there and actually selling more policies. And guys, at the end of the day, I'm very grateful to have been a team member for 6 years and to have, been a door-to-door salesman for 2 years prior. And I'm very grateful for the skills that I learned and the mindsets that I was able to develop, and because it resulted in my income changing forever, right? Like, my ability to learn how to sell life insurance and health insurance products, off of the home and auto, completely unlocked my paycheck, right? Like, when I started to make more money, my life changed financially. And that's the beauty of this opportunity that we have. And so my first message is to be grateful for the opportunity. Okay. My second message is to don't overlook the amount of opportunity that you can create for yourself by just being proactive and having the right strategies in place. Okay. The right methods and the right processes to do so. But guys, for those of you that are familiar with this success formula, it comes from Tony Robbins. Okay. There's 3 elements to success per Tony Robbins. The first is state, then story, and then strategy. Those 3 together equal success. Okay. And so on this podcast, I spend a lot of time talking about strategy, talking about different methods and different strategies and processes that we can use to write more life and health insurance in the agency, right? We talk about different ways to position life insurance to make sense for people, different ways to position these different products. We talk a lot about strategy. And obviously you guys can see that, strategy really helps you sell more, okay? Helps you get to where you want to go. But guys, the longer that I've been in this business, and the longer that, I've studied it, and the more that I've studied it, and I think back to my time being a door-to-door salesman, then getting into insurance, strategy is just one piece to the puzzle. Okay. These other 2, we maybe don't talk about enough. Okay. State. When you think about state for a minute, you can't out-strategize a negative state. And, unfortunately, most team members are at the mercy of how they feel that day. Like, most team members don't have the ability and the skill to regulate their emotions. Most team members don't know how to not take the highs too high and not take the lows too low. Like, being even kill is a skill, right? But most team members are just at the mercy of their feelings. And that's concerning because, I think back to being a team member, doing door-to-door sales, and even now running a business. Like, if I was to rely on, my feelings and only, choose to show up, choose to take action when I feel like it, well, I wouldn't be consistent in anything that I do, right? Like, because I know that naturally my brain is wired to look at threats. Naturally, it's not super easy to just be in a positive mood or have a positive attitude 100% of the time. And so, for me, if I don't have a system that I can plug myself into that allows me to predictably be in a positive state, then I may not get the success that I want. And so I would encourage you to ask yourself, like, what is it that I'm doing consistently, daily, sets me up to be in a positive state every day, right? Because if you can have some sort of system, some maybe morning routine that you follow, that, maybe you read a book, or maybe you listen to a podcast, listen to an ebook, or just fill your mind full of like positivity and growth minded thinking. Maybe you're like, I'm just listening to training replays in the morning, and having some sort of routine, maybe where you exercise and you go out and exhaust your body so you can tame your mind, right? Like there's different things and different systems that you can put in place for yourself that's going to work for you to put yourself in a positive state consistently every day. And guys, as I think about, what took me from 10 life apps a year to, over 200 life apps a year, having a system in place, a morning routine that predictably got me in a positive state every day was a big key to my success, right? It was a big key to my consistency. And so what is it that you're doing consistently every day that will set yourself up to be in the most positive state that you can every day? Because again, you could have the best strategies in the world, but if you're operating out of a negative state, it may not work in the way that you want it to work, okay? So state's important, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. Maybe in another episode, we'll talk and dive a little bit deeper into state. But as you'll notice, state comes first, all right, which says something, okay? But the next component, the next element of this Formula of Success by Tony Robbins is story. And I want you to think about that. Story. What does this mean? Well, think about what stories you're telling yourself. What beliefs do you currently have that you're operating out of? What, thinking patterns do you currently have about your role and what you can accomplish? Okay? And I would encourage you to think are my stories and my beliefs serving me and helping me, move through rejection or get myself to just take action even though I don't want to? Are your stories serving you, or are your stories limiting you? Okay, now in my tenure being a team member, right, and experiencing these different, stories that I found that I was telling myself, or different beliefs that I was operating out of, or different thinking patterns that I had, and now, coaching team members in the trenches for the last 4 to 5 years, a lot of the times it's not that, team members don't have the strategy. It's not that they're not in the, in a positive state. It's just that they have these limiting stories that are keeping them from getting to where they want to go. Okay. And, another way to think about this is like I said, thinking patterns. Okay. And so I'm going to go through 15 different thinking patterns that team members are operating out of that are preventing them from taking action and getting to where they want to go. Okay, the first one is this. I don't want to push anything on anyone, okay? Team members don't want to feel like salespeople. For whatever reason, they don't want to feel pushy, okay? Maybe it just doesn't feel authentic to them, okay? Maybe they just, anytime they get an objection, they just feel pushy trying to handle the objection and get the customer to move forward, okay? So as you can see, if you feel like this, you're associating persuasion in sales and influence with pressure. And if you don't want to feel like that, you may never take action, or you may just take that first no and have it completely shut your conversation down because you don't want to feel pushy. Okay, so maybe that's a thinking pattern that you're operating out of that's, a bottleneck to getting the results that you want. Okay, then the next one is this. I get anxious bringing up life insurance. Rejection is hard. I get discouraged easily. Okay, so this is almost like a fear, right? Of, if you're getting anxious about bringing it up, there's some sort of worry that you have about doing so, right? And a lot of it comes down to I just don't want to be told no. I don't want to have to deal with that rejection because I truly do get discouraged easily. Okay, and so it's almost like this, you're taking these no's and this rejection personally. And you don't want to feel like that, okay? So maybe that's what's getting in your way. Another one is I'm fine where I'm at. I'm making good money, right? You're comfortable. You're complacent. And that the amount of work that's required for you to grow just doesn't seem really worth it to you, because life's already hard enough. You don't want to make it harder if you don't have to. And life's good. We're making good money. And so it's almost like you're operating out of this comfort, and that's become your identity. And because you're so used to what you're used to, there's almost this fear of uncertainty of what might come next, okay? Or what might be required of you to get to that next level. And so, maybe you're, this comfort or this complacency, this way of thinking, this belief is keeping you from where you want to go. Another one might be, you know what? I'm just not like Coulter. I'm not Jordan. Like, I cannot do what they do because, they're at a completely different level than me, right? It's almost like you're operating out of this comparison pattern, okay? Where, you don't believe that you can do what Coulter and Jordan have done. And so it's, the root cause, guys, it's a lack of self-belief. You don't feel like you can do it. And it's almost like you're trying to borrow confidence from other people because you don't have it. And, because you don't believe in yourself, that might be what's getting in your way. Another one might be, rates are too high. People can't afford life insurance right now. They can barely afford their auto insurance. Guys, this is a belief pattern, right? These beliefs, you're almost like, that's where you're going to stop because you're giving power away as to why you can't be successful. Rates are too high. People can't afford it. Maybe you even don't believe in permanent life insurance. And so you're not, you don't believe in it. And so why would you try to get other people to do something that you don't believe in? Okay. So maybe there's some sort of belief that you have that's really preventing you from getting where you want to go. Another pattern is almost a permission pattern. You're waiting for your agent or your office manager, your sales manager to tell you what to do instead of just doing it, right? You're operating in a very reactive mode instead of being proactive. And maybe it's because you're like, man, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Maybe you're like, okay, Coulter and the group, they trained on, running a list of all of the homeowners policies that are renewing next month to call on. And, the training was awesome and I feel like I could do it, but I just don't really want to step on any toes. I don't want to go run that list because I don't want my coworkers to feel any, type of way about me. I don't want my agent to feel any type of way. And so it's almost you're operating out of this permission. You always have to get permission to take action. And that could be preventing you from getting to where you want to go. The next pattern could be, I just want to make sure that I get the application 100% right. Like, I don't want to make a mistake, because or maybe it's even in your conversations. You're like, I don't want to mess up the conversation. You don't end up doing the conversation because you don't feel like you can do it. You feel like you're going to mess up. And so it's almost like this belief that like you have to be perfect before you start, but we all know that never really comes, but maybe that's like what's getting in your way. Another pattern is like a hope pattern. You're hoping that rates will drop so you can sell more life insurance. You're hoping that your schedule is going to somehow free up and that you're going to find the time to call on the list to sell more life insurance. Like, you're hoping for these things to happen and, they never really happen. And so you don't end up taking action and you end up don't getting to where you want to go because you're operating out of this hope that things are going to change, hope that things are going to get better. It's like things are only going to get better if you take the action and you make them better. Okay. But like, you're giving too much power away to outside circumstances. And here's the thing, guys, is like, yeah, rates are high. Cool. You don't have a lot of time and you truly are busy. Cool. Guess what? There are thousands of other team members that are dealing with the same rate increases as you. They are dealing with the busy day just like you are. Like they really feel like they're treading water and they're still finding a way to win. Okay. And so like, stop hoping and just start doing. Another thinking pattern or belief might be, I feel bad selling to people who are struggling. Right? Like, I don't want to take their money and get them to pay for this life insurance policy when it's like they can barely keep up on their auto insurance payment. Right? Like, you're over-identifying with the customer's hardships, and so you're not actually having the conversations you should be having to protect people financially. And I want you to remember that. Like, it is your job. Like, if you have a life insurance license in your state, it is your moral obligation to talk to people about life insurance, because I'm telling you this, no one else is talking to them about it. And you need to reframe this. You need to reframe it from like, what? Instead of like, I feel bad selling to people who don't really have the money and who are struggling and who can barely keep up to this. And instead of thinking like that, you've got to think about a hypothetical situation where that customer's wife calls you to tell you that their husband just died in a car accident or just passed away. I need you to go there in your mind so that you can have the hard conversations. Because I guarantee you, it's only going to take one of those phone calls that you take that's going to completely change your perspective on everything. Right? But if you truly feel bad about selling to people who are struggling, I think it's ultimately the root cause is that you maybe don't believe in what you're doing enough. Okay? Because I don't think that the question's right of like, do you believe in life insurance or do you not? It's how deep is your belief in life insurance? How much do you actually feel that you are helping and serving people by getting them and helping them get life insurance, even though they give you maybe a little pushback initially? Okay, so evaluate that. Another one is like a victim pattern. Again, we kind of talked about this, but rates are too high, right? My book isn't big enough, right? Like, yeah, Coulter and his team, they trained us on this list that we can run. And you know what? Like, that sounds awesome once I have a bigger book, but I don't have the bigger book. And so like, I can't do that. You're falling into this victim pattern. And maybe another one's like, nobody wants life insurance right now. Okay. And so you're blaming external circumstances and external things to just avoid maybe the discomfort of not performing at the level that you can perform at. Another one is, maybe I'm too busy with service calls. This is a big one, right? I'll sell when I have the time. And we all know that this busyness pattern, the thing is like, if you're busy right now, is it possible that you might just be busy again? Sure. And another frame that I think through is like, if I can figure out how to sell life insurance, sell health insurance at a high level when it's the most busy time in the agency, guess what I'm going to be able to sell when things slow down a little bit? I'll still be able to sell the life insurance and health insurance at a high level. So it's like, of anything, it's like, be grateful that you're busy and just figure out how to sell life and health insurance there. And honestly, if you're busy with so much service, guys, sell life insurance from these service calls. Like, it's that simple. Okay. Another one, I don't feel right. I feel guilty asking for these bigger premiums, right? Like, I can sell the smaller policies, Coulter, but these bigger ones, like, I just feel guilty, doing that. It's almost like you're selling out of your own pocket. And guys, like, at the end of the day, like, what's expensive to you may not be expensive for me. What you feel like is a lot of money may not feel like a lot of money for Joe. Okay. And just think about it this way. If I were to say, okay, hey, if you think about an expensive car, like, what's the dollar amount that makes that car expensive? Right? And you're going to have your answer. Maybe for me, it's like $200,000. And for you, you're like 50 grand. Or maybe it's like you're saying, well, $200,000 and I'm saying 50 grand. Okay. Like, it's like, okay. And then, maybe another question is like, okay, like, if you think that someone's making a lot of money per year, like, what's that dollar figure? What's that number? For some of you, you might be like $500,000 a year is a lot of money, where I might be thinking $100,000 a year is a lot of money. My point is like, don't assume that just because it feels expensive to you, it's going to feel expensive for them, right? And vice versa, because it's just like all you're doing is you're projecting your thoughts and your beliefs onto people if you feel like it's expensive. Like, don't assume and just sell the value of it. They'll tell you if it's expensive or not. A couple more. There's a knowledge pattern. A lot of team members, especially newer team members, they just don't feel like that they know enough yet to go out and sell at a high level, right? They don't feel confident in explaining the products because they don't feel like they know the products well enough, okay? And so they confuse like this ongoing learning with being ready, because it's like in our minds, we put this false reality of like, okay, once I know more, then I will take action, where it's like, guys, it just doesn't really work that way. And being in insurance, things are always changing. There's so many different products that we can offer, and honestly, it can be complex. And so it's this never-ending learning game, right? You're never going to stop learning in this industry. But here's the thing is like, if you don't know the products, go learn the products, right? Like, it's 10 minutes a morning away from you learning about a limited pay, permanent life insurance policy, right? Like, if you're not comfortable with the products, go study them, go learn them. Like, that's what I did. But also just understand this, that like, you don't need to know everything to sell life insurance. You don't need to know everything about the product, because guess who doesn't know hardly anything about the product life insurance? Your customers. And so the problem that I see is when we gain all this knowledge about, the product and these different things that we can offer, we almost like to vomit this onto customers, try to position ourselves as the authority, someone that's credible and someone that knows their stuff. But what we don't realize we do in that situation, we confuse people, and people don't buy when they're confused, right? We're making things too complex. And so like, guys, you know enough. You know way more than your customers about life insurance. And here's the thing. If you know what life insurance will do for people, you can sell it. The next pattern, we're going to cover two more, is maybe an energy pattern. Okay, I lose focus by the afternoon. It's hard for me to maintain that energy all throughout the day. Maybe it's hard for you to get into having the energy right at the beginning of the day, right? It's hard to stay positive all day long, right? That's an energy pattern. And you know what? Like, there's just no structure that you have to manage your energy, right? You don't have like a rhythm, right? You don't have any sort of recovery or any sort of things that you can do throughout the day to give yourself a break, right? Maybe go for a walk. Maybe get up and go talk to your coworker. Maybe, I go to the gas station all the time and go buy Monster, right? It was just almost like a reset. Maybe you don't have those in place. And so you have this energy pattern where it's like, you don't have the energy and maintain that energy all throughout the whole day. Okay. And then the last one is an identity pattern. And this is one I see a lot. That's like, well, Colter, I'm not a salesperson, right? You're identifying as someone that can't become a salesperson, right? Or I'm just here for service, Colter. Like, I'm not here to sell, right? Like, that is a pattern that's going to prevent you from taking action and getting to where you want to go. So guys, at the end of the day, don't just focus on strategy, right? Focus on getting in the right state consistently every day, because guys, sales is an emotional roller coaster. And if you are operating out of a negative state more than you're operating out of a positive state, none of this else matters, right? That might be your bottleneck. Okay, so figure out how to get your state right. And we're going to dive deeper into that in another episode. But then story, really pay attention to these stories that you're telling yourself and ask yourself, are they serving me or are they limiting me? What thinking patterns are you operating out of right now? Are they serving me or are they limiting me? What beliefs do you have right now? Are they serving me or are they limiting me? Right? And guys, at the end of the day, when you can spot it, okay, you can identify this thinking pattern or this belief that's limiting you, right? You can kind of name it. Then what you can do is you can reframe it for yourself, right? Sometimes, we need to sell ourselves more than we need to sell our customers, right? When you're trying to help customers understand that, for example, you get a life insurance objection. I've got life insurance to work, Colter, I'm good. Well, we know that that's probably not enough coverage. We know that that's a policy that they don't own. Okay. But what we have to do is the customer just said, here's my current belief. We've got to reframe things and help them think about that a little bit differently. In a lot of ways, we've got to do the exact same thing with ourselves with these different stories that we're telling ourselves. So spot it, name it. You can then reframe it for yourself. And I found that has helped me, number one, identify certain stories that I didn't know that I was, telling myself. But then number two, figure out how to, take that story and get to the next level. Appreciate you guys. Hope this was helpful. My only ask, guys, is to like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend, maybe a team member friend, an agent friend. And, if you want to go deeper with us, if you want to, get your team trained up on how to get in the right state consistently, how to uncover and shatter limiting beliefs and stories, and how to have the right strategies in place to win and win at a high level in financial services, click that link below. Let's get on a call. Would love to connect with you and help you guys get to that next level. Appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.